So obviously a lot of good film for us to get on here in the next day and a half. Anytime, and you guys know this, you get to work against a different team, different cadence, different defense alignments, offensively the same way, route concepts. You're solving maybe some problems on the fly. I spent most of the practice on the offensive field. Of course, Kyle was on their offensive field. So I said to the players, there's a lot when we get back to the hotel that we're going to want to look at, clean up. Overall, I was pleased with the work we got, and both sides I thought handled themselves well. It was competitive, and yet we got a ton of situational work. 2-minute red zone, third down, a lot of teamwork. So a lot of players getting a lot of work. Any questions?
Just first blush, I know you got to go through the film. How did you think Bo just sort of operated?
Overall, listen, I think we had good tempo. I thought we did some good things in the running game. You get a chance in a situation like that. It's not tackle, but you get a chance to see some of the spontaneous plays that he's able to make. And so we'll go back and look with a little bit tighter lens at everything.
You mentioned the running game. What did you maybe learn more about some of your backs going against a different team?
Yeah, I want to see the film. I thought they all, they got a lot of reps. We had a lot of team reps. So, look, some schemes are more inside where your valuation or average per is going to be different than other schemes. But we'll see on the tape.
Sean, a lot of good reps from your kind of depth interior defensive line guys. How do you go about sorting out when you have so many rotational guys? What are you looking for as the factors to kind of differentiate when you're thinking about the roster?
Well, look, there's a lot of competition for spots. We discussed the other night, how we're going to play the game, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Our starters will play. There'll be a point at which we get into phase 2. And when you're in these phases, there's still a rotation, and so if you're looking at 3 interior defensive linemen in phase 2, there might be 4 or 5 ready to play in that phase 2, and then the same way when you get into phase 3. And we'll rotate that around. So it's, it's a body of work thing in evaluating it all.
Coach, you talked about the spontaneous plays from Bo that he made out here today. Do you think there's more that he can do even this year than he did last year in that regard?
I think that it's something you can't force that. Look, we can design plays to get him out of the pocket, but I'm talking about, when a part of your protection breaks down, maybe the initial route's covered. He tends to function comfortably in that position.
Dre didn't practice today, and those of us who spent a lot of time around him probably believe that he would really want to be out there against the 49ers. How is he doing?
He's doing well. He's doing really well. We were fortunate last week with a little scare, and he probably won't play in the game, and will be back working full speed, on Monday. But look, it's always emotional for a guy like him, Vanga, to come back. Those guys have had a lot of wins here with a lot of teammates and coaches, and so we definitely were bringing. There was a handful of injured players that we felt we could better serve them here relative to treatment, and then there were a few that stayed at home based on the type of injury.
Sean, you've often talked about your worst fear is a young guy going somewhere else and succeeding.
Yeah.
I had a former player say to me the other day, for fringe players, these practices, maybe I fit well on the Niners if I don't make the Broncos. How much do you look at some of those fringe guys and say, well, maybe?
Well, we had that conversation just the other day in the meeting. I said, if you're not careful and you're just looking at your own depth chart, you're missing it, because there's 31 other teams that are getting evaluated. One year we had a kicking battle that went all through training camp. 2 kickers, man. Every day there was a story about it. Who was in the lead and then the last preseason game we played Baltimore. They happened to be releasing a kicker, and we worked him out. It was Will Lutz, and the two that were in competition, neither made it. And so I think the objective is to put your best tape on film, certainly for the club you're playing with, and then also for the other 31 that may be looking for a position you play.
What did you like about Dre and Hufanga this offseason? Bring them in, and did Kyle Shanahan give him any insight?
Yeah, there's just a leadership. There's a confidence about them. Both are very serious, and I want to say that the right way, but very serious about winning and the process. And I think when you can add pieces like that to a young roster, it's invaluable. Yeah, he does a lot of things well. He's someone that can play on third down. He's I would say a very good receiver at that position, and he's right there in the thick of it as we start evaluating that group of runners that are all competing for a spot or two.
You mentioned Bo's ability to extend plays. Courtland, in terms of how he works with Bo there, have you seen him kind of add?
Yeah, all of them. When you get used to that, and we've seen this with other quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers in the red zone was one of the best. A play doesn't develop, and he moves, and in concert, the play moves with him, and so it's practiced, and then when you begin to see it happen probably 4 times today, there's certain scramble rules that we discuss: far receiver, near receiver, backside receiver, in regards to getting in phase with the quarterback, and there are a lot of plays to be had.
Sean, do you have a concern level at all with Brandon Jones?
No, I don't. I think that are you talking about?
He wasn't out here, so I was going to, if you had an injury update.
Yeah, nothing now to report.
What ways did the 49ers defense give your offense a good look?
We had some good pressure looks that we hadn't seen. That's always the first thing. You're trying to walk through a couple different things, and so on the fly, you're trying to sort through your protections, and that's kind of that's realistic to a third down situation in a game. Teams spend a lot of time on trying to break down a protection, so I would say the pressure looks we got were challenging.
Sean, Jaude's first look at another NFL offense.
Say it again.
Jaude's first look at another NFL offense. What were you looking for, or hoping, when you go back to the hotel?
Yeah,
to see
well,
from
we're just, you evaluate it all. How do you handle, the situation, man-to-man zone, whether it was pressure, was he inside or outside, just the overall grade of the day and how he's playing. He's very instinctive. He's very smart, exceptionally smart, and I think that's a big plus for him.
Coach, after going up against the Broncos front 7 over these past many weeks, how did the Broncos offense look against the offensive line look against a different front?
Yeah, well, obviously it's a different front. We'll see the tape, and I'll probably have a better answer here in a couple days after I watch it. It's going fast. For me, I'm blowing the whistle. I'm kind of wearing 3 hats. So we'll see on the tape.
Sean, how will you look at the defensive tape on this? Do you look at that first since you were over on the offense?
Yeah, I'll look at all of it. I'll probably watch the offensive tape with the offensive staff and then go watch the defensive tape myself, visit with Vance, and kind of go from there.
How do you weigh the one-day importance of a joint practice like this versus a preseason opener?
It's all important. It's all important. So it's the sum total.
Sean, you're pretty bullish on him. I mean, you're bullish on Bo, obviously, in general. You talk about him potentially being one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL in the next few years. What does he need to do, and what do you need to do around him for him to sort of...
I think they're just these progressions relative to situational football. His preparation's been fantastic, and I think continue on the course where he's improving, and you know he's going to work extremely hard at it. So I think there's a number of things, but there's not one specific thing. I think he's wiser to red zone, wiser to third down, the cadence. You know, there's some nuances that when you get real comfortable, maybe in year one, your snap count is this, and then pretty soon it becomes, you know, something that's more of a weapon. A number of things like that.
Run things in an environment like this you might not run in a preseason game. Like they ran an end around wide
Yeah,
receiver
yeah. And so, look, there might be something where you want to get it on tape, and maybe not so much, you know, Saturday. Might be a pressure look. Yeah, that can happen.
Without looking at the tape, what's the biggest thing you learned about the guys today?
No, listen, it was a lengthy practice. I mean, I didn't count all the snaps, but I thought we handled the length of it from a stamina perspective. We had great weather, of course. The fields are in great shape, and you know, if you were over on the offensive field, you had to deal with that crowd noise, the simulated. I mean, that speaker blaring was driving me crazy. But overall, pleased with how the day went.
Sean, anything Matt thinks?
No update. As soon as we have one, we'll update you guys.
How was working with Kyle and his staff and
Great.
putting this together?
Yeah, great. You know, I've known his dad for a long time and known Kyle for a long time. It was great to see both of them. And, you know, we talked several times on the phone, met over here this morning just to go through some of the last minute updates. And, no, it was fantastic.
Do you think that the respect you guys have for each other carried over on the field? Because it didn't
I
seem
think
very
so.
chippy.
No, I think so. Look, and I said this before, neither wants to disappoint the other. And look, we have this 2-hour moment in time. There's no conflict. They're an NFC team. We're an AFC team. And let's use it to get better. And it's back to that story I told you last week. You know, no one was yelling at either of us in the supermarket aisle, so I'm happy about that.
Sean,
You said you have to be comfortable with the topic. Will you say, do you guys want to come back here in February?
It's the goal. You know, it's always the goal. You know, but I think it starts really more in the division, and you know, it starts with playing in your division well, having a chance to compete to win your division, and then the next goal is seeding, and then the final goal would be trying to get to the championship game. Yeah.
Sean, a few days ago, excerpt from Seth Wickersham's book about your negative play kind of formula for evaluating.
There was a lot in that.
Yeah.
It was just there was a lot that went into the evaluation in trying to remove the outside noise, and really eliminate all the quick throws for all these guys. Look at these, you know, important statistics: third down numbers, red zone numbers, sack totals, historical data that tells us what this might mean. We're getting better at looking at certain things and trying to develop, like, what, you know, and so it's a hard position to evaluate. And I said this to you at the Combine, I think we'll do a good job evaluating it. Now, it's not easy, but, you know, time will tell.